Hey everybody, what's up? It's Stefan and Martin from ChemStars, and we would like to welcome you to our very first episode of our Venture Talks live here from Technical University in Dortmund. At Venture Talks, we sit down with incredible humans speaking about their experience and their stories in science-based entrepreneurship with the goal of helping you create impact out of your research. ChemStars is an initiative of the chemical industry and the Ministry of Economics here in North Rhine-Westphalia. And we have the mission to support startups that have touch points to the chemical industry on their way to becoming successful. And we also support scientists on their way to become entrepreneurs who will found their own startups in the future. Before we start, we'd like to say thank you to our friends from the Center of Entrepreneurship and Transfer here at the Technical University, without whom this event would not be possible at all. The CET, if you don't know it, it's the place to go to for everyone at the Dortmund University who thinks of starting an own company. And our friend and colleague Bernd Rathmar from the CET will introduce their activities to you later after our talk. So make sure that you stick around and that you don't miss out on that. And as you have noticed, maybe we have a hybrid event today. That means we have an audience here in Dortmund, live here with us, and we have an audience online via our YouTube channel or stream. But that doesn't keep us away from also taking your questions. So if you're with us online, simply drop us your questions or comments in the chat section of the YouTube live stream, and we promise to keep an eye on that, and we try to incorporate your questions into our discussions that we have here on stage. And for everyone who's here in Dortmund, we will also have a microphone that goes around later, so you will also be able to ask questions to our guests directly. All right, so let's get started. What's next? So for the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to talk about a few different topics. We will talk about the questions, what is it like to start an own company? We're talking about what do investors look for in startups? What kind of startups do they invest in, ideally, or what startups do they like to invest? Let's put it this way. We will talk about the question, what changes when you, as an entrepreneur, put an investor or get an investor in your company. And last but not least, if we find the time, we will also talk about some of the hottest trends in the chemical industry. And that being said, I would like to hand over to Martin. And yeah, I hope you will enjoy the show.
Thank you very much, Stefan. I'm super excited about this first episode. I mean, Stefan and I have been talking about this a lot, and it's great to see it finally come together, come to life. For today's show, we have two amazing guests with us, two people that I personally value a lot, not just because they are genuinely nice human beings, but because they are always open to share their unique perspective with young entrepreneurs and scientists. One of them is a biochemical engineer and a two-time founder who started his first company, Mtp Labs, based on the research he conducted during his PhD studies. He then grew the company into one of the leading suppliers for microbioreactor systems before starting his second venture, b.fab, a company at the intersection of electrochemistry and biotech that actually makes use of CO2 as raw material. I really hope he's going to tell us a lot about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. I'm super excited, everyone. It's Frank Kensy.
Yeah, thank you.
Our second guest is Senior Investment Manager at the boutique venture capital firm bValue. And that's a VC that has a particular focus on non-pharma biotech and chemistry. She has a ton of experience, in scouting, evaluating, and investing in business ideas. And she's probably the person you want to talk to if you're currently looking for capital. She's an absolute expert in her field, a wonderful conversationalist, and by the way, and I keep forgetting this, she holds a PhD in bioinformatics and has had a career in academia before. So I'm really looking forward to her explaining in detail what a startup must bring to the table for investors to get excited. So thank you very much also for being here with us today, Pelin Yilmaz.
Thanks for the wonderful intro, Martin.
All right, I'd love to start off by talking a little bit about what it's like to start a company. So I personally find it amazing when scientists in academia decide they want to create impact from their research and bring their unique findings to market, bring an idea to life. And Frank, 15 years ago, that person was you, right? So you were a PhD student and you were developing a technology back in the lab, and there must have been a point at which you realized, listen, this isn't just cutting edge science. This could also be something that has commercial value, a commercial application. And do you mind telling our audience a little bit about your journey with Mtp Labs?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I did my PhD in Aachen University, and I was working on microbioreactors. We had already a lot of industrial projects, and where we could recognize really that our technology, the microbioreactors, accelerating the R&D work, a lot. Yeah, and the industry were really interested to do some projects with the university with us. And we really thought, okay, if the industry is already interested here in the project, so also technology, we could probably sell this technology. Yeah? So, okay, and then in these times there were also like entrepreneurship trainings in Aachen University, and we've participated in this 1 week training, very intensive, with all these parts of what you need as an entrepreneur. So, and then finally we needed a product what we wanted to bring into a company. Yeah? So first it was all the like playing, and yeah, we used my like PhD content at the microbioreactor stuff. So, and then we participated in a lot of business plan competition. So, and we really recognized, okay, that has a market value. So, and then we started the company. Mm.
That's amazing. I mean, was it just your part, as in your microbioreactor research, or was it other parts from your colleagues as well that kind of came together in one?
Not at this time, no. So we were 4, but like at least 2 of them, the others, it was also like just having fun, being a part of a startup. Yeah, so they were still in the PhD, and they contributed a lot on business plan preparation and also other technical questions. So, but it was never the plan that they come into the company. So we started with 2. The other was also a colleague from the PhD in Aachen. And then we started the company, and we were assisted also like center like here CET from Aachen University, and this was a really good support to really come out of the university.
Pelin, as an investor, you're always on the lookout for new technologies, new ideas. Mm-hmm. What's your kind of advice for scientists in the lab today to find out if what they do has some sort of commercial value? What can they do?
That's a really good question, kind of hard to answer, but I would sort of, go beyond my little academic bubble and then see what's going on in the world currently. I mean, there are various newsletters for various areas, various business areas like chemistry, biotechnology, and so on. I don't know, you could take a look at those, see what other people are doing, and see if your research can actually lead to a company, a product. I would sort of keep an eye on things generally, try to be informed about things, follow different pages on LinkedIn. I don't know, like in Germany context, maybe you could look at bioeconomy, you could look at Chem Manager, whatsoever. Be informed, I would say, and then not just write your articles and publications.
And Frank, your journey with your second company was quite different to the first company. So you spent 10 years growing this one company, you left the company, and then afterwards you decided to start again and start something new. But you didn't go back to university to do some more research to develop a technology, you kind of had to find one. Can you tell us what the differences were in approaching your second venture?
We had with my first startup, I really traveled all over the world to sell these microbioreactors. So, and I got a really good overview of the market. I entered several US biotechs, and there I took really the inspiration and motivation to start a full biotech company, not just a device company. So, and one inspiration was a company from New Zealand, Lanzatech. They were working on CO2 conversion. So, and yeah, when I left the company, Mtp Labs, so I really thought, okay, I would like to do something with CO2. So, and then in these times, I was discussing this topic with Thomas Schwarz. He was like president from Cluster Industrial Biotech, Düsseldorf. And so we were discussing it, and so we knew that we need some technology basis. Yeah? So, and we're looking around at universities. They are the patent agencies, and they normally offer some patents. So, and we found a patent in Frankfurt and also in Israel. So the Israeli one was a little bit surprising. So we found it through literature search. Yeah, so and then finally we got in contact with these universities, and finally we really could make a contract to get an exclusive license on this. So, but what I can tell you is that coming from, or if you're already in industry, yeah, and not have your academic or university background, it's much more difficult. Yeah? So because nowadays you have all these programs which supports you. There is Axis, there is Startup NRW Transfer, there are a lot of stipendia. Yeah? So, and this really, you should make use of it, because then it's much more easier. So we tried it here in Dortmund, also to get like access. But the story was not really complete, because we having a patent from another university who wanted to explore it here in Dortmund. Yeah, so and that was not a really good story, and therefore it was more difficult coming from already industry than if you would have started from the university itself. Yeah.
And would you say that you've benefited from the experience that you have made while founding your first startup in the second one, or was it a totally different story?
No, it was a different topic, but there are a lot of things the same. Yeah, so like how you find investors, and also a lot of what is very important, the contract with the investors or with other partners. Yeah, so you learn a lot, and you can really benefit from it. Yeah.
Okay. And I was also wondering, like maybe going back in time, so I mean, it's still not super common that scientists found their own companies. Like, how was it back then? Like when you realized you're starting your own company, you maybe told your friends, your colleagues, your family, hey, I'm an entrepreneur now. Like how did they react? What did they think about it? And how is it now if you tell someone you're an entrepreneur?
Okay, back in the times when we started Mtp Labs, it was not that popular. Yeah? So there were, I told you that there was an entrepreneurship program, so where you got all the basics. Yeah? So it was already existing, but if I look now into the universities, we have much more programs. Yeah? Yeah. So and this is really helpful. Yeah? And so my family, okay, they are not entrepreneurs, they're also not businessmen, so they are employed. So for them it was quite uncommon, and also they said, oh, it's not too risky. No, but if you believe in the technology, and you know that it can make an impact, so then okay, go forward. Yeah? So and normally these entrepreneurship centers at the university, they give you a lot of support, and this makes you feel also safer. Yeah. So and I think it's also the objection what they have, and this really helped. Yeah. So if you started it then, so you've come into situations where you still need some new support, and also they're coming up questions like which lawyer should I take, and so on. Yeah, so a lot of open questions. So, but you find your way, and there's a lot of help with these entrepreneurship centers, the IHK, or others, which can help you with these questions. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, should we dive deeper into the investors part of starting a company?
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe Pelin, can you explain to us in very simple terms what a venture capitalist is and what you do?
Okay, venture capitalists collect money from various resources, individuals. It could be a grant fund. This happens in the US, though not in Germany or some other governmental private organizations. They pool this money, they then go out and seek startups and give money to startups so that the startup can start, grow, and become a successful business. It's a, let's say, a type of private equity actually. So ultimately the venture capitalist wants to earn money, wants to get their money back with some multiples of it, so to say. There are different flavors of venture capitalists. There are only those that invest in tech startups, social media, whatsoever, so more internet software-based businesses. There are also now up and coming, I wouldn't even say up and coming, there are also deep tech investors who have more technological knowledge in some area and they would like to invest in more science-based startups, more hard tech startups, let's say. Once a venture capitalist invests in your startup, then it becomes a minority or majority shareholder, depending on your agreement, in your company. So it's an owner of your company. So it has some rights on the company. So that's kind of, I would say, in simple words, what a venture capital is.
Cool. Thank you. So, if I'm a startup and if I'm approaching you, like, what should I bring to the table that you invest in my company, or in me, or in my company? And maybe you can also tell a little bit about in what phases or what kind of company bValue invests.
Okay, I'll start with our phases. We invest in what's called the pre-seed or the seed phases. So pre-seed is either before the company has been incorporated or founded or right after. So it's very young, there is no sales, there is no revenue, maybe there is not even a functional product, but maybe a prototype or similar. Seed phase is also quite similar. Sometimes the boundaries are a little bit fluid between those phases, but we like to get in early, work with the entrepreneurs and sort of shape the startup in a direction that we think will be viable as well. So what we look for, I mean, how to approach a venture capitalist. I mean, obviously what's called a warm introduction. So someone in your network introduces you to a venture capital firm, it's the best. You can also do cold calls. It's a little bit harder. Maybe you don't get an answer, but don't be discouraged. That's how life is. I also do the same thing for follow-up investments, and I also don't get answers. So it's completely normal. You just have to, keep at it. What you then send is either, depending, I mean, it depends. You could send like a flyer, a one-pager, or a full pitch deck. And then depending on how the venture capitalist goes on about due diligence and the general review process, they will ask for a business plan, they will ask for financials, your IP, whatsoever. It all depends how they're doing their business, let's say.
And what are kind of the top 3 things you look for in a startup company? What would you say?
I'm going to go with the usual answer. In the early stages, it's the team, and then the technology.
Okay, how does the ideal team look for you? I mean, if you have, for example, Frank, with 1 or 2 other scientists, is that an ideal team for you? Or
I think so. I think that works really well. But there is nothing with entirely scientist teams. I listened to an interesting podcast, and the guy there was also saying that back in the 90s, when the whole Silicon Valley was starting, back then the nerds were doing the products, and then the venture capitalists were coming, putting in an MBA on top of the company, and they were managing the company. But now if you look at the companies in Silicon Valley, I mean, the nerds are running their own companies. Ultimately, the technology, the innovation, all these, the love for innovation, so to say, you cannot learn these things, but you can learn the MBA skills. So, but nevertheless, to digress from that, I think maybe a mixture of like science and business knowledge is ideal, but not a must.
Yeah. Okay, and Frank, how was it for you when you had an investor in your first company? I think you did even invest in his first company,
yes, exactly.
Right? So, okay.
Yeah.
No, in the second.
Or in the second, how was the process for you? Did you do a cold call? Did you have an introduction?
Not so much with cold.
No, with Mtp, we were lucky that the HGF they started just before we founded the company. And so we were one of the first companies funded by the HGF in 2006. Yeah.
So you mean the high-tech Gründerfonds?
High-tech Gründerfonds, yeah. And so we were just, I mentioned 4 engineers, but 2 active in the company. Yeah? So it's not the ideal team. Normally it's good to have some business background. It was also always a question the investors asked. Yeah? So who's doing the business part? Yeah? So and my colleague, he was keen to do the financing, and also we had a consultant or also pre-seed investor. They could also cover a little bit the financials. Yeah. So that was enough to get the funding from HTGF. And so, but what I experience with when I speak to investors, they really like a minimum team size of 2, better even 3, and that you have complementary skills. Yeah. So, okay, that is also an intrinsic correction, you know, in the company, and I believe this is correct. Yeah. So it's good to have these different capacities, properties of the persons. Yeah.
Can you maybe elaborate on what it feels like when you're in front of an investor? So think back 15 years ago again, and you're in front of the investor for the first time. What does it feel like?
Yeah, okay, that's, normally they do not understand you, yeah, so you have to, because you are, yeah, I'm an engineer, yeah, so, and you have to find the right words to explain technology to him, and you have to make it easy, yeah. So, but what I believe what helped us was the participation in these business plan competitions, yeah, Science for Life, NOK, Cologne region, and Start to Grow as another here in the rural area. Yeah. So because there you're submitting your business plan, and you have to also they have different sections of the business plan. Yeah. And you have to also speak in a different language, so that the economists understand it. Yeah. So, and you get the feedback normally from some reviewers. Yeah. And with this you are learning, and then you got to the first meeting to investors, and you're just learning. Yeah? So I think it's not easy, and they're asking strange questions. But I think it's good to really speak as much as possible with investors to really learn this process and to understand their questions. Yeah. Mm.
So it's not necessarily love at first sight, but it's more like
I think okay, what we were always taught that the chemistry must be right with the investor, and this is important. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important.
So because okay, not also your co-founders. No, you have to. It's like a marriage. Yeah. So that I learned. Yeah. So because you're working very close, very hard with this person. And this is a good important question. So, who are you choosing to co-found the company? Yeah. So because then it's like a marriage in the next following years. Yeah. It's hard to divorce, and when you divorce, it's very hard. So so with the investors, similar. You're not seeing the investors every day, but maybe every month. Yeah, so or at least speaking with them via the phone, because you have some controlling obligations. Yeah, and and therefore it's also important that you have a good chemistry, and also you should understand if the investor you choose is also can take an active part. Yeah, can give some input. Yeah, there are some investors they're very passive. So, and I'm not sure if you want these.
Yeah. Now, for many scientists in the lab, it's kind of the first time they think about their research in terms of a commercial product, and it's kind of difficult enough already to think in these terms. Like, what can you do as a scientist to prepare for this whole capital raising process? Like, where do you find information? How do you approach this in general, Pelin?
There are databases on the internet, Crunchbase, whatsoever. I would go ahead and sort of look for similar technologies, maybe even competitors, sort of try to place my idea in this landscape. That's always good for your pitch deck anyways, because investors want to see generally a competitor analysis. And then you can also see what the other companies have done, how they sort of present themselves, so you can sort of like get some influence, you can get some ideas. how you want to present yourself. I would say, I think that's do a little bit of research, like a literature review, let's say.
Yeah, I agree. Plus a YouTube review, right? So
yes.
try to find as many pitches maybe online and see how others have done it before you.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, I would definitely look to the American side here. I mean, okay, depends on what kind of investor you're speaking to, but like, having an upbeat pitch really helps, to excite investors as well, and sort of like, looking at this American way of doing things a little bit more, excited is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I can comment on this as well.
Sure.
So I would probably go very early to customers. Yeah. So and normally in Aachen was the situation that our professor had a lot of industrial contacts. Mm-hmm. So and okay, we had some industrial projects. Yeah. So but we could really reflect the product. Or discuss the product with industry already. Yeah, so I think this is always good because then you speak directly with your customers and they give you input and to improve the features and the product. Yeah, and later on this could help as well because the investors are also asking for references. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think very often. They really speak with these references before they invest. Mm-hmm. Yeah? So and then also if you spoke with them already about the product, so they are familiar with it, and they probably give you a good reference then finally. And that really helps for the investor.
Yeah, Frank touched a really good point. I will also add a few things to it. I mean, there's in science startups, so product market fit, it's not so much the concept, I think, but really the industry buy-in. So if you have letters of support or letters of intent in the hand, and if you go to investors with those, that's awesome. I think that really shows commitment, and it also shows that that is something that the industry that you're working in is needing, wanting.
Yeah, but what do you say to scientists, and this is something that we come across quite often when we work with startups and scientists that intend to found a company later, when they say, listen, I'm worried they're going to steal my idea. So what do you tell those people?
Sign an NDA, I would say. I mean, obviously enforcing it would be difficult, but if you're, let's say, if you sort of have patented your idea, your product, your whatever in the hand, then you should be fine, and you don't have to spill out all of your secrets, obviously. Just kind of go on about it a little bit carefully. I would say it could be helpful. Just sort of like use general Menschenverstand, let's say. No?
Yeah.
No, I would say also like don't spell out all the secrets. Yeah, of course. So try to get early on patent protection, and then after that, I would go to conferences, or maybe starting with posters or even presentations, yeah, and then collect all the feedback that people give you. And then normally, also there are conferences with a mixture of academic listeners and industry listeners, yeah. So and then you get enough feedback to reflect on the product and the technology. If you get a good, really or enthusiastic or really a lot of interest, so and then you know already, okay, that could be something.
The good thing with science startup is that like it's also hard to replicate an idea, a product, right? I mean, you could always replicate, let's say, software. You have to. There is not so much barriers to entry, as we say, but you can. I mean, it's really quite hard. Someone else not knowing what you're working on to come and like steal your idea and do the exact same thing. Yeah. I think you have some protection in that way.
Yeah, this is great. Can you maybe touch on the differences between deep tech or science-based startups and tech or software IT-based startups?
Yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah, let's try. I mean, deep tech science-based startups take a little bit longer. They have different financing cycles compared to software startups. I mean, you always hear crazy valuations, $1 billion whatsoever for software startup. all of that money goes into generally customer acquisition and not so much the development. I mean, okay, some software development is obviously necessary, but like, they scale really fast, really quickly, and try to acquire as many customers as possible. For science startups, there is a bit of research and development side, and then the customer acquisition whatsoever is a little bit more different, obviously. You generally have a B2B, so business to business business model. So the things look a little bit different. The financing cycle is a little bit different. The growth is a little bit different. So the investor also has to know this and has to have patience to wait for you to have your product and sell it and then grow. It will not be a steep growing curve as software startups, I would say. So that's also why it's important to choose your investors wisely.
Yeah.
And I mean, how as a startup, maybe as a first-time founder, like how do I know that I have the right investor in front of me? Like how do I know that they know what they or whom they are talking to? How do I know that they understand me? How do they know? I mean, I'm a deep tech startup. I take longer than your digital.
I mean, if the investors have had any experience, if they were, say, founders back then, operators, they know how it goes. And also, you can look into, you're talking to an investment associate or manager, look at their backgrounds. I mean, do they have a PhD, or do they have some sort of science background, or do they just have an MBA? So just to see, I mean, the investor does due diligence. You also do diligence on the investor. See what their portfolio is like. Do they have software stuff, or do they have like hard tech, like science-based startups? So that should give you a good indication of whom you're talking to.
Yeah, that's a valuable insight, yeah.
But I mean, there's a gap, right? So there are more investors looking for these software things because they are much easier, and only a little number of investors looking also into deep tech, right?
That's correct, yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, but that's changing, I think. I read a report recently in industrial tech in Europe, I think. I think the current enterprise value of European industrial tech was like 7 billion euros or something like crazy. Okay. And between 2020 and 2021, the investment that went into this area, there is also some software, of course, in it, right? Industrial software, but it was crazy. So that kind of gives me hope, I think, that things will change.
Cool. Maybe this is a good time to look around and ask, are there any questions from the audience? Or maybe, because I don't see the chat up on our screen, from the YouTube chat. No, this is not the case. Any questions from our audience? Yes, one over here.
This is a question that I stumbled on.
We have a microphone for you, so...
Yeah, hang on. Maybe also give us a bit of background as who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Marcel. I'm working currently at Picnic, but I'm also thinking about maybe founding something myself. And something that I was wondering recently is, how do I actually know that my business model is something that has potential and it could reach the traction? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So how do you know that your business idea or your business model that you're thinking of is a good one and can create traction?
Okay, I mean, it depends. I don't know which area you're working in, but are there similar business models? Have they been successful? So that's one indicator that this could be working. Is there a specific need that your business model is addressing now in that industry area whatsoever? Is there some pain point? These could be good indicators of if your business model is correct or good or will work.
Yeah.
Well, I can also comment. I would really prove it, and maybe first with friends and family. Yeah. So, and also maybe it depends really on the business model. Yeah. So maybe also even go on the street. Yeah. So and do a survey with passengers there. Yeah. So what they think about it. Yeah. So or maybe even with industry. It depends on really on the business model. Yeah. So reflect. Yeah. Get your feedback from early customers. Yeah.
Really try to put it to the test, right? If you have hypotheses about your business model, go out and validate or invalidate them. Try to find out if what you believe is true is actually true, or if not, you can always adapt and kind of change and find a way to make it work.
Or work with a minimal viable product, no? So like. That depends, yeah. Or have a prototype, giving to customers, or just a web page. So give it to them for testing.
Yeah. I would like to ask a somewhat personal question. You spent 6 years, I think, in academia prior to joining the venture capital industry. What exactly happened? Like, what made you change from base research to investing in startup companies? Like, how did you come across venture capital, and why did you leave academia?
I got frustrated with academia, so I'm just going to give a really honest answer. I was a postdoc for 6 years at that time point. I didn't see where my career was going, and I also sort of slowly started not seeing any value in what I was doing. So as Martin introduced, I had a PhD in bioinformatics. We developed biological databases that people were using, which sort of gave me a lot of joy during the time. But we sort of didn't innovate those databases further into what people were going to be needing in the coming years in our area. So that sort of put me off a little bit. And then, with the frustration with the academia, I started looking outside. I completely randomly came across the opening for my current fund. I asked around a little bit, what is venture capital, what do they do? Sounded exciting, I applied, and now I'm here.
Here
3
you
years
are.
later. Yeah.
It's amazing. And what does a typical day look like for you now as a venture capital investor?
It's kind of a mixture of everything. So it's a lot of deal sourcing, what we call. So we try to sort of find new and exciting startups, talk to them. I write to them, can you give us a pitch deck? Do you want investment? We're investors here, so on and so forth. So it's a lot of cold calling in a way. I do a bunch of due diligence in the companies that we want to invest in. So that due diligence is essentially looking into everything they say to see if it's right, if everything is solid, if the team is solid, if the IP is solid. So essentially it's kind of like this. Whenever 90% of the time, whenever I hear a pitch, I get excited. With due diligence, I try to disprove myself. So that's that, yeah. Then we have also, just like a normal company, paperwork. We have our own investors. We have to provide reports to them. I do some, well, not social media, but LinkedIn outreach work. I work with my own existing portfolio companies. They have monthly reporting calls. If they have some issue, we try to solve it. So it's a mixed bag, I would say, my day. It's quite exciting, actually. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And what exactly do those update calls or progress calls look like? Like, what do you talk about, and how do you structure these calls?
We generally start with the financials. Generally, we try to see how much money they have in the bank, how much runway do they have with that. So until they need new financing whatsoever. If they're doing well, if they're already post-revenue, if the revenues are coming in, if they're still developing the product, what's the product development timeline like, if there are any problems with that, everything literally. So if they're applying for new patents, how is that going? And then the most important part of those calls is actually, which we also say to companies, if they have problems, please ask us, we try to solve that. So it's a mixture of reporting, but also troubleshooting.
And it's like in a good marriage, so you try to help each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what also Frank said is very correct. Some investors are a little bit more passive, they will look at your financials, thumbs up, and then go away. Other investors are a little bit more engaged. They will try to, if you need a bioreactor secondhand, they will try to find a bioreactor secondhand.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So maybe Frank, from your perspective, like when you got the first investors in, what changed for you as, your day job as the founder before the investor and after the investor? Was there also anything else except the monthly report calls or update calls?
No, with the time you really recognize that it's not. It's first of all, it's a sparring partner. Yeah. So and they are sitting in the same boat. Yeah, so they also want the money to multiply. Yeah, so and therefore, they're helping you. Yeah, so and therefore it's always better to have an active. Yeah, so they're helping more and maybe providing a network, providing contacts and also the soft skills. Yeah, this is always better. Yeah, so but was really an aha effect. Was that they're all sitting in the same boat, and it's more that your friend than your enemy. Yeah.
That's great. We've had a question come in from YouTube, and There's actually two questions. So one is, what is a realistic time frame for a science-based startup to generate revenue? We all know that science-based startups take so much longer than IT startups. What's a realistic time frame, you would say?
How was your experience, Frank?
I believe it really depends where you are. No? If you have already a prototype, so then with Mtp Labs we had pre-prototype at the university. But then we had to build this serious device. So we had also like a serial prototype. Yeah, so it took 1.5 years to get the product to customers, or maybe 1 year to get with the prototype to the customers. Then we learned a lot with that. And then 1.5 years not later, but after the start of the company, we could finish the serial type. And we had just pre-prototype at the university. Yeah. So, but I would say, if like in biotech chemistry, could happen really, also depending where you are after your PhD or where you are. I would assume minimum 2 years that you get first revenues.
Yeah. And it probably also depends on the business model, right? So if you have a product vision, but are able to generate revenue through a service business model on the way, that could be a source of funding. What's your perspective on that? Is this something that you advise companies to do? Or would you say rather focus on your product instead of trying to build a service business at the same time?
Okay, it's a difficult question. I mean, we had kind of both options actually in the hand. Well, I mean, the service model is attractive because you already generate revenues and that looks good, but that also takes focus away from whatever you're building, your greater goal, so to say. So you have to judge, how much time and effort all of those are the service model is going to cost you. It's always good to have revenue on book, but if you're building something difficult, something that requires a lot of research, perhaps it's best to put 100% of your time into that. But also let the investor know this is the way that you're not going to achieve revenues really fast and quickly.
Yeah. And we had a second question from the internets. What and when are the exit options? And I think Frank is a perfect person to talk about this because we haven't mentioned it already, but Mtp Labs was acquired by Beckman Coulter Life Sciences last year. So after, I think 15 years, was it?
It was long term.
So maybe you can tell a little bit about the exit options that you see nowadays.
And also it's also depending on the status of the technology. Yeah, so there are startups that have a big potential. Yeah, so then you have probably just to prove that technology is working, and if it's so hot, so probably like big tech companies they buy you. Yeah, that's one exit. But if it it's also like maybe deep tech, good technology. Yeah, so and you getting already revenues, so then normally the buyers or the corporates that buy you, they want a minimal revenue, because it should make an impact in their revenue, so they want to grow, so and then the rough sum rule is. Maybe having 5 to 10 million revenues. So this is a good moment to sell the company. So where the buyer is looking for. And the other could be if you have already, if your technology has a really huge market, you can even go to the stock market. So and then you have also to grow. You need a specific size of the company. So that depends also, and maybe you can needs 5 to 7 years to go to the IPO. And that could be also an exit for your investors. They cannot sell it immediately, but they have a lockup period. Maybe here in Europe, it's probably 1 year after the IPO.
And is the exit something that founders need to keep in mind at the beginning, like from your investor perspective?
Sure, but I wouldn't really so much focus on that actually, because I don't know, that it's kind of a touchy topic. I mean, we want to see commitment to the startup as well. I mean, if you sort of like put the exit options to the end of the pitch deck, that kind of comes off a bit funny, I would say. I mean, of course, keep them in mind. Like, I mean, what's the landscape like? What are the, I mean, not the competitors, but who could maybe, you know, acquire you, or would you like to do an IPO and so on and so forth? It's good to think about these things, but at the seed stage, pre-seed stage, I think it's okay maybe not to think about them too seriously or too much in depth.
Do you think that a lot of entrepreneurs that come from science know about that you as an investor want to have an exit in the end? Like, are they aware of it, or do you oftentimes experience, okay, they actually don't know that we have to earn our money as well, that we need a return at some point?
I hope so, but maybe not so. But yes, we do have to earn our investment back. Yeah, so we do expect an exit. We don't expect an exit in like 5 years. We could also go with 10 years or a longer time frame. But yes, yeah,
Okay.
they should know it, I
Cool.
think.
I think we have one question from our audience here.
Yes.
So go ahead.
I'm Steffen, working for TU Capital, the investment arm of the TU Dortmund. My question is, did the pandemic and the rise of biotech startups and company change something in the startup scene, and also from investor point, did you see like a rise of more biotech startups?
Biotech definitely sort of came to the focus of a lot of people, that it existed, that is kind of useful for the world. I mean, obviously biotech whatsoever. The non-pharma biotech also actually came to focus somehow, like with synthetic biology startups, like Zymergen, Ginkgo, Twist Biosciences from the US. They also actually kind of contribute. For example, in my old job, we ordered SARS-CoV genome bits from Twist Biosciences. So these all became known entities to people. They started thinking about how biology could change the world and so on and so forth. And it also, I think, you could sort of produce things a little bit more locally instead of sort of shipping it around the world. So this, you know, with the Corona crisis and the whole chain sort of breaking, people started thinking about different ways to maybe produce goods and services, let's say, and then biology kind of found a moment, I would say, which is exciting for us, obviously.
I'd say it's the same. Okay, the pandemic is in the biopharma space. So, and in general, you have higher values there. Yeah? So, and it was also in the past already easier for biopharma companies to find investors and to get good investors. So, but now I guess the whole situation changed. Yeah? So we have also Fridays for Future started before the pandemic and continues now again. Okay, I think the pandemic gave us a lot of time when we had the lockdowns, yeah, to think about how we live and how we manufacture, how we utilize our materials and so on. And on the other side, investors learned that you can earn money with biotech. Yeah. So and now, okay, I guess investors find or they change their view so that also industrial biotech is also important. Yeah. So how to sustainable manufacture materials. Yeah. So and what I see in the industry, that also the chemical companies, they want to get rid from, I'm not sure, but the market is pushing them to think about the fossil fuels that they use. Yeah.
I mean, at ChemStars, we've got a focus on the chemical industry, right? It's in our name, and it comes with the partners that we have on board. And I mean, this industry is standing in front of the biggest transformation challenge that the industry has ever seen. So within the next 30 years, an industry that is heavily reliant on fossil resources needs to change and become climate neutral, become carbon neutral. This is a very, very exciting time, I guess, for startups to be present, to be active, and for scientists to come up with new ideas to actually, to help this industry go through this transformation process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think there's one more question from the chat as well. This is something that we also always get is how do I find suitable co-founders, and how do I know that a potential co-founder is actually the right one for my startup? Do you have any kind of pieces of advice?
You want to go with it?
Yeah, it's not easy, really. Yeah? So I would say, okay, choose your co-founders from people you like. Yeah, you have to imagine that you have to spend a lot of time, probably more time with your co-founder than with your girlfriend or anything. And therefore, it's important really which relation you have with them. Yeah? On the other side, it's also good that you're complementary. Yeah, you have complementary skills. Yeah, so and probably today I would maybe even do a psychological profile of my co-founder. Yeah, not to really see where are the capabilities, the strengths. Yeah, to if this is really good fit, and maybe adding other people that really complement our skills. Yeah, so even if you have to invest in like a psychological profile. I think it's not bad. What I learned really, I think it's a good approach.
No. I mean, I think you don't have to be best friends, but you have to complement each other in meaningful ways.
Yeah.
And then you need to be able to work well together, I would say. The person should be a good sparring partner for you, maybe sort of challenge your ideas, right?
Yep.
So that it should not be that you always agree on everything. I don't think that's a really good indicator, actually. So yeah, and then the person should also be committed to the journey that you're on.
And also I don't know how you look at this, but I believe it's important to meet people a couple of times and kind of always bounce back ideas and try to really get to know the person rather than commit after maybe 1, 2, or 3 meetings. It's as Frank mentioned, it's kind of a marriage you're going into. So it's a long road ahead of you with your startup. It's a long journey. So it's very important to take your time to find the right person. So don't rush into it.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you also said that you were playing around in the beginning of your first startup a little bit. So, and I think that's what you need to do. So play around, get to know each other.
Yeah. Maybe do a hackathon first.
We don't have much time left. What I would love to do is to hear from both of you, your perspective on things. So one is, Frank, if you're a scientist in the lab right now and you're uncertain if you should kind of follow this path of entrepreneurship, if you should start a company, what's your advice you could give to them? And then Pelin, afterwards, if you're a startup, if you've committed to doing this, like what are maybe 1 or 2 things that you should focus your efforts on in the very beginning? Maybe we can start.
Well, I would first I would do 2 things. So first of all, I would reflect the technology I'm developing with industry. Yeah, what they think about it, if they see any potential. And the second would be doing like entrepreneurship classes. Yeah, so here CET, I think it's offering. So and then really experience if you like the stuff. So that you have a lot of other topics like marketing, financing, contracts, and so on. Yeah. So if you like it, and also the diversity of tasks. Yeah. So then you should go further.
Yeah. Cool.
I would say talk to a lot of people, talk to potential investors early on. Don't wait for the perfect pitch deck. Maybe send an early version and ask for their honest opinion. Always ask for feedback. Try to find people that understand you and that sort of relate to your goal, let's say. They will try to help you. There will be people that they may ignore you on the way. Don't be discouraged. Try to find people that want to support you, that like your idea, and that want to be together with you on your journey.
Thank you so much. That's very valuable. Yeah, it was great to have both of you on the show. For everyone here, Pelin and Frank are both going to stick around for a little bit, so make sure to connect with them, ask them for their unique insights into what you're working on at the moment. For everyone online, I'm pretty sure you can connect via LinkedIn. I guess that's okay. As I mentioned before, they're always open to kind of help people who are in the very first stages of their career. And we'll now hand over to our friend Bernd, who will tell you all about the Center of Entrepreneurship and Transfer. which has made today's event possible. So thank you again very much to the CET. Thank you to the team that's behind the camera. There's 3 people doing hard work on the camera and on the computers. So this is hugely helpful. Thank you so much. So for now, goodbye from us. Stay safe and thanks again.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Stefan.
Okay, then also once again, let me highlight what Frank already told you here and also at the screens at home. We are here there for you. So the TU Dortmund University and the CET is an approved excellent startup center since 2019. And also since the last year, we are, let's say, a huge organization. A lot of colleagues joined the CET, and we are especially there in supporting you with consultancy and get the right founding, also in IP issues, and moreover also to our startup programs. I think you can see the web link of our page now depicted there. And yeah, and as Frank said, it's if you are believing in your technology, then we are there for you. We will support you. And since the last weeks, we launched also a new program, especially made for scientists. So no pre-knowledge is necessary. Please reach out for me or my colleagues in charge of, and we will help you to bring your technology to transfer. So if you believe in your technology, we believe in you. And right now, so many thanks again, also for the ChemStars, Stefan and Martin, and also for Frank and Pelin, and the people around here and also at home at the screens for joining us for the event of the first Venture Talk. And of course, again, big hands for my 3 colleagues. It's Sina and Enes, and without their effort, it wouldn't have been possible to bring you here on stage, on this stage, and also to bring it to you via live stream at home. So thanks again. And now let us rejoin and enjoy the evening. Thanks.
Thank you so much.